Hello, everyone. Sable here, and I could not be more excited to bring you this one because it's the finals of UPL, which means I stuck to this and managed to get through an entire tournament's worth of RBY games. So if you're listening to this, thanks for joining me in this one. I'm genuinely really happy to have gotten through all this. And if you've been listening through all of this, then hell yeah, thank you for being here for all these. Genuinely, I'm only doing these because there are people who want to listen to them and are actually getting something out of it. So if that's you, then thank you so much. It genuinely feels nice to be able to talk about RBY and actually have people get something out of it and it not just be here's the replay. I'm going to tell you exactly what's happening on the screen that you can already see. But I'm not going to do too much preamble. It's me versus Gastlies in this. At this point, we're both 6-2 and in the finals of the tournament. In my opinion, the two players who deserved it the most out of RBY. Maybe a bit of self-glazing, but we also did have the two highest records in the tournament, and I think we were both the players that had the best grasp on the meta throughout this tournament. So I'm really excited for this. Gasly's beat me the last time by just a hair, and I'm really looking forward to taking revenge here. So I definitely tried really hard on my prep for these games, and I'll talk about it as we get into them. But despite what I just said, this will sound stupid, but I brought almost the same teams in terms of Pokemon for both. The only differences were the leads, but the sets were totally different, I promise. So there was some good thought put into this. So first, game one, Egg lead, not something common for me versus a Gengar. Here, I'm happy to take this for two reasons. One, spoiler, I have another sleeper. Two, it's honestly pretty good odds for egg, and I have good enough answers to switch into this Gengar. So Hypnosis misses, Sleep hits. It's a 60-40 on face value, but you have to consider first turn Wake. So it really kind of does come out 50-50 for egg because Gengar can't first turn Wake on the same turn it's slept because it's faster. So you don't really stay in to test that first turn Wake, you know what I mean? You can't stay on egg and test it and then risk getting blasted with a psychic. So you end up really kind of closer to 50-50 in practice. And here I get the stun spore on Mewtwo, so I'm immediately thinking, is she running barrier 2 and just trying to catch this right away? But I don't want to boom right away because I actually have a secret weapon. I have ran 0% Chansey for the entirety of this tournament, and I finally bring one out in finals. Now, some people will tell you Chansey is really bad. Ghastlies and I will tell you Chansey is not bad, but you can't spam it. It's not the old days of Ubers that are really slow. What Chansey does, it is really consistent at getting you the sleep. It will get you the sleep versus most teams, barring like boom spam. And it sits on barrier 2 forever. Does not matter the game state, you sit on that barrier 2, you make it burn a bunch of ice beams, and even if it gets the freeze, you've insulated everything else. And if you ever recover Mewtwo and a soft boiled Mewtwo, soft wave, imagine that move. Heal yourself 50%, then paralyze the opponent. My God. Anyway, if you have healing on your Mewtwo and Mew and they're not paralyzed, they sit on barrier 2 forever. So it doesn't actually stall them out because you just switch back and forth 16 Ice Beam PP and you just heal on each one. It's completely free. So I've already gotten sleep, so at this point, Chansey just sits here. I'm just clicking Thunder Wave to cover for any potential switches and see what she does. And there's the barrier, so now I'm just like, okay, I will sit here until you leave. Go to your Eggy, threaten me with sleep, whatever, but I'm not switching Chansey out. You're just going to have to Ice Beam me 1,000 times. And if you ever para a few times in a row, then I will take that free barrier 2 KO, since Seismic Toss is ironically the most consistent damage you get against this. But we're going to be here a little bit. I'm actually going to speed it up because I think we do this dance for a little while, and I'm happy to just run that PP down. So as you can see, Ice Beam doing nothing. At this point, I said in the chat, freeze me. So I was kind of, she's my friend. I was playing around a little bit, but I was being a little bit taunty. And so Chansey, I'm not going to sack it to sleep because I've just seen how valuable it is versus this Mewtwo, and Eggy can wake up right in front of this Egg and Mewtwo over and over if I want to. I'll go to my own Mewtwo, and now Ghastlies has to consider the possibility that I crit blizz this even through the -1, but I'm actually just going to boost in its face and kind of dare it to play against me. I do get lucky with the Stun Spore miss, but I think Ultimately, this was pretty forcing, and I'm actually, spoiler, also a barrier 2 here. So I'm pretty happy to just force some damage and bait that boom, and now this egg is very, very neutralized as a threat. I go to Tauros to kind of mid-ground, and because I'm like trying to preserve the slept egg, because I figure there's a lot of chances to wake it later and get that boom. But here I just take the speed tie. I'm happy to take 50%, but I'm really believing in my Mewtwo to be able to win this or force a lot of good situations for me. I have a Snorlax, so I'm happy to keep pushing with this. And this is great for me because Tauros doesn't have boom and Snorlax does. So I want anything with boom out so I have more chances to set up. And between my Chansey and my barrier 2, I'm figuring that this looks like an advantage spot for me, even if this gets boomed. So I'm happy to just stay in and force the boom and not risk it. I do think on that turn I had a pretty reasonable switch to Egg to catch the boom, but ultimately, it's kind of a just in case. Chansey comes in here, which pretty much forces Gastlies to go right back to Mewtwo or take Para on this Mew, which is great for my Mewtwo. Ultimately, she chooses to just trade it. And now the only worry for me is just what this Mew has, because if this has the right moves, then I'm in a bit of danger here. So I do want to kind of wear it down a little bit and then figure out the right way to get around it. So here I want to get 50% on it, even at the risk to my Chansey, and now I'm going to get out to my Egg. Pivot on the Earthquake, and kind of confirm, does this have Hyper Beam? So I pivot through to Mew on what I presume is going to be a soft boil, looking to use a bit of like scare tactics, and also I have Explosion. She ends up staying in, not buying the Explosion, and I just boom it right away, and now I'm thinking, okay, Mewtwo probably has this. Now, my big advantage, you'd think that 38% chance he's not going to help stall at this Mewtwo because it can set up and take it out, right? But because I have a barrier 2, I can reapply Para on this Mewtwo a billion times, go to my Chansey, and continue stalling it for Ice Beams. So I'm feeling pretty set to win this at this point. And I think Gastly's maybe should have considered preserving this Tauros, but ultimately she's just going to take the chance to try to push through before my defense gets too high. And so it's just out of Ice Beam range. And I think I Ice Beamed because I figured 2 Ice Beams, and that way I don't give it a chance to get out after I set up. But actually, no, I did Amnesia. Okay. So I guess I'm thinking here, like, this is a bit more of a threat to Mewtwo if it comes in on an Ice Beam. And I finally do Ice Beam, and now this looks a bit dangerous, but realistically, my chance of recovering against this Mewtwo is very good. It would have to win speed tie and crit me. So it does win speed tie, but obviously doesn't crit me, and now I'm pretty safe here. So now all I have to do is recover up and sit on this in PP stall. And the only like wrinkle in the plan is just that Gengar is there, so I don't want to waste all of my Mewtwo's PP and then have to play against the Gengar. So my ideal here is really for Chansey to be the one doing most of the stalling, but I want to weaken this a little bit and get my setup on it. I think here I probably should have Amnesia. I don't know why I'm ice beaming exactly, but I think I was still under this like impression maybe I can break through before it gets the amnesia off because it was paralyzing a few times, you know? But I am slower, so I really should have just clicked amnesia. So there it is finally. I should still be slower because it's double barrier to my face. But now like the pressure is decent because I'm doing like 40%. Barrier again makes it a speed tie. But now I'm going to go Chansey on what I assume is going to be an amnesia from Gastly's. The reason I set up twice before going to Chansey is so that even if I switch in on a setup move, my Chansey still is faster than this Mewtwo. So this Mewtwo's speed is at 1/64th right now or something. It's been quartered 3 times. So now my Chansey's just definitely faster. Get a free soft boiled up, and now it's really hard for this Mewtwo to win on 15 PP. So here, I do think maybe I should have just gone back to Mewtwo and set back up, but I did want to get damage on Gengar and not give it the chance to just burn a Wake turn and get back out. So I just kind of went for it, and I figured, if I get it low enough, it's going to have to try to call a boom turn and not hit the egg, and if it hits the egg, then the game's just over. A big ask. But now it's on 4 turns, and I'm thinking, oh crap, this could actually wake up. But I do get there, so a little bit unlucky for Gastly's not to wake up, but I do think that Gengar had a big ask to call. Not only call the boom, but also if my Mewtwo and her Mewtwo get into a PP stall war, then I'm gonna run it out and my egg is gonna wake up in its face and finish the game, or we're gonna struggle each other to death before the egg even gets onto the field. So I do think it was looking good for me, even if the Gengar did wake up, and ultimately Chansey ends up really coming in clutch here and walling out this Mewtwo to get me the victory. So for me, it's a barrier team, but it's another like weirder variation on barrier than I've been using. Pretty happy with it. It's a support Mew with Boom, of course. So I've got 3 Booms. I've got the Chansey and the Egg for paraspreading as well as the Mew. And I've got a decent amount of physical offense, which I managed to force to trade her physical offense to kind of insulate my Mewtwo from the worst of it. And it also has the effect of helping my Chansey not have to deal with as much physical offense. Her Mew with the setup was scary for sure. I do wonder if that last move was Boom. That's my intuition here because I think 4 Booms plus Barrier is a pretty strong setup. I've ran 5 Booms in Barrier before and 4 Booms in Barrier, so I was thinking maybe this is just walled by Egg and I can just wake up in its face, but I didn't want to risk it, so I went to my T-Wave Mew first to try to win the game that way, but she made a nice play and almost got out of it with the Mew, so really good from her. And we'll get into game 2. So as I said, the only difference is the leads, but I did change the sets. All the sets I'm pretty sure are different in this game, like all 5 Pokemon. So I'll talk about it as it comes up. I go straight to Chansey here because I figure if she's leading Mewtwo, there's a chance she clicks Boom, and if she doesn't want to Boom, then well, I'm going to get my sleep. And the thing is, once the Chansey comes out, she won't want to Boom because then I'm going to just send Jinx and I'm going to beat her in the Sleep War. So Fire Blast comes out, and I'm thinking Psychic, Fire Blast, T-Wave, and then it's going to be either Boom or Recover. But it could be some other sets. We'll see as we go. But I sing, I miss, and now it's a sing war. But I'm happy to take this with the Jinx in the back and trust that my Chansey can do stuff. Because I've seen the lead Mewtwo, I'm no longer as concerned about the preservation of this Chansey. Because either it's an amnesia-less Mewtwo and I will wake this Chansey on it later, or it's not amnesia-less and this Chansey is not going to really do enough to help fend it off. But there's no barrier, which is the main reason I wanted this Chansey for that and to make sure I secure sleep. So I go right to Snorlax to get some physical pressure in as Gastlies goes to Slowbro. I'm feeling pretty happy to see the Slowbro this early and get it out of the picture because Slowbro is a threat. So I'm pretty happy just trading down here. And at this point, after I see the Rhydon, I'm thinking, okay, well, I know the team. Now it's going to be a Mew and a Tauros, something like that. I mean, we know it's a Mew, and I'm expecting Tauros, and she drops the egg for Chansey to get the sleep. But I am kind of wondering about her sacking her one sleeper. I guess she switches it into Chansey, expecting potentially me to just T-Wave this Mewtwo and try to wear it down so Jinx can get sleep later. Or maybe she really was just comfortable sacking it. But who knows? Either way, I take Mewtwo in and I get my recover in front of this Rhydon, and on we go with the game. Now, I'll talk about what my Mewtwo is in this game because it's a little bit funny. I want to come back a couple turns. So, as much as I'm happy to hit the Slowbro, this Brodon is actually horrible against my Mewtwo with this Chansey sleeping. So I like the damage because it makes it look like I'm desperate to take out the Slowbro instead of like sacking my Chansey to para and playing that way, since I could just Seismic Toss Bro down. This Mewtwo, I will save the info a bit longer because I want to let it kind of show the conceit of this team before I do that. So I go to Snorlax expecting another Thunder Wave to come from this Mewtwo, or I guess a Thunder Wave. The initial one was by Slowbro, but I'm thinking Fire Blast, Thunder Wave, Boomer, Recover, and then one more attack, or maybe Amnesia. And after this Fire Blast, now I'm kind of thinking, okay, is this Mono Blast? Because there's no reason not to Psychic here. So Mono Blast makes me think, oh, this Mewtwo might not be as much of a threat as I think it is, but honestly, my hand got ahead of my brain and I boomed. But really here, right after I clicked, I kind of thought, wait, do I just Earthquake? Do I just Body Slam? So honestly, this was a mistake by me. I just kind of sacked the Snorlax off for no reason. The damage on Rhydon is good though, because it does make Chansey a lot less threatened by it for the rest of the game. And now here I click Ice Beam, and I'm baiting that this is a barrier 2. It's not a barrier 2. but we'll come back. We'll come back around to that. So Gastlies, of course, clicks T-Wave because why wouldn't you into Barrier 2? And that should kind of give away that it's not a Barrier 2, but I actually don't want to let it get paralyzed here if I don't have to. And here I Seismic Toss because, come on, of course the Rhydon's coming into the Seismic Toss Chansey. And now here I'm happy to go to Mewtwo, but I'm kind of trying to bluff this like, oh, it's a Barrier 2, but I don't want it paralyzed until I know what's happening with the Slowbro, or until the Mew is paralyzed first, or something like that. So I'm gonna keep like baiting that this is a barrier and please T-Wave me, but I'm not actually gonna take the T-Wave any of these times, and I'm gonna keep trying to push with this Chansey as much as I can. So here comes Rhydon again. I think this time I also tried to Seismic Toss, but not so lucky on that one. So Mewtwo has to come back in and risk a Body Slam again. But she paras too, so it evens out. And now she sacks the Rhydon to Ice Beam, not wanting to switch in Mewtwo and still being suspicious of me, which I have to commend her for being suspicious of how I'm playing this because like even with me dodging the T-Waves, you can very much take that as I don't want to mess around with getting boomed by this Mewtwo because she is telegraphing a boom still. So it's very easy to take this as like you have a Chansey, why would you risk that, right? So now here, I'm not going to risk a 25% para on the Swords Dance, so I go right to my own Mew and look to disable this, and now I'm feeling a lot more comfortable with my Mewtwo being able to win this game, since I did kind of forgo offense and defense for bait here, but I'll show exactly what that looks like in a second. So I did have a Blizzard 2, or Blizzard Mew, and I really wanted to click it, to be perfectly honest, because I was never going to get a chance to click it otherwise. There's obviously no egg on this team. So I thought I can click this and then I can click boom, and she's probably, as long as I don't para. It was greedy and I should have just boomed, but I wanted to click it once and ensure the KO if I could because my Mew too is kind of lacking damage. So like it's a bit of greed, but you also have to consider that my Mewtwo at like low roll boom and the Ice Beam was not taking that Mew out. So on one, like in that sense, it's kind of optimal as long as you just don't para. So now my Chansey comes in on the Mewtwo again, and now I'm going to take my chances. She tries to pivot to Chansey, but it's really obvious she's not going to sit there and wake this when I have an unrevealed last Pokemon. I'll tell you it's Tauros, and I'll give away a spoiler that my Snorlax and Tauros both, well, my Snorlax mainly was running a move you don't expect to see on a Snorlax. My Tauros was running the move that kills Slowbro and Cloyster. So here I come in on the Slowbro and I set up this time, and after a million chances to click the move, she goes to Chansey to Scout. And what move, you might ask? I just have Ice Beam. Can you tell I had a lot of fun with this game? Because I really did. And so I'm still not setting up Barrier. I'm trying to take this kill on this Chansey before it can wake up. So I go to Tauros just in case, because I'm afraid that I'm not going to finish the KO. My T-Bolt Tauros is a threat to the Slowbro, but I'm really looking for para on this Mewtwo to keep it from doing too much. Back to Chansey, unfortunate bit of passivity here as I'm a little bit scared of this Chansey waking up, but for her to wake up would mean letting my Tauros in repeatedly. And now it's just kind of mind games between T-Wave and Seismic Toss, depending on if she's going to go to Slowbro or Chansey. I toss here after the para. I think I did T-Wave on that turn, expecting that she needs to recover if she has it. And now that I've seen these moves, and I've seen her click Fire Blast in front of that Snorlax for no reason, I'm thinking, okay, so it's like Boom last or it's Amnesia last, but Amnesia last, I kind of wonder why she hasn't clicked it. So I'm just going to keep going to Chansey in front of this over and over. Now, Chansey does burn off one more turn, but in exchange, she's going to have to risk another Mewtwo para, and I'm really just hoping I get it at some point. But I again don't. So I'm going to use Chansey and keep trying to burn off those Fire Blasts. So that's one more down. No pun intended on burn off, by the way. So here, just going to recover, no taking any risks in case she switches out, and I just get caught out. And now that I'm back to 80, now I clicked something, but I honestly can't tell you what I clicked there. And now in front of the slow row, I'm kind of like, oh crap, but I'm just going to try to wear it down so it has to go for a rest. So she has no reason not to Amni up except for fear of para, but once that happens, now I can go to Mewtwo a lot more safely. And the problem is she can just keep going back to her Mewtwo, so I kind of have to make some reads on whether I should Ice Beam or not. So I do Ice Beam here, thinking like I want to force recovers and I want her to be afraid of the 10% so she stays in with Slowbro. And just like she's still not biting on the potential bait because I haven't shown Barrier or whatever fourth move yet. So I do have to keep playing this loop a little bit, and it's a bit scary. And now the Slowbro has burned off the minus speed penalty from Para, but also it's not boosted at all, so she has to keep worrying that what if this is the time? And I just Amnesia up to kind of cover my bases in case she amned in front of me. And I'm willing to stay once on this Mewtwo because I'm just kind of mentally like, you're not going to boom me. But now I go to Chansey thinking, okay, at 3 Fire Blasts you might boom me, but it's down to 2. Now like this Mewtwo is close to not being a threat because if the last move is boom, I'm just going to take it on my Chansey. And if you haven't guessed by now, this is not a Barrier 2, it is a T-Bolt Ice Beam Mewtwo, and the Ice Beam is purely there to bait Gastlies into thinking, there's no way it's T-Bolt. So now here, this is where it gets a bit precarious because Chansey paralyzes a couple times. So I do have to take a couple of risks, and finally I decide, okay, let's just sack the Jinx off. She's not going to fully sack the Chansey until I sack the Jinx, and it does kind of suck that let her get the Chansey sack for this, but I can't risk losing the Slowbro like this, when instead I could just get to my Mewtwo. And even if she gets a full +6, I just need one boost for my Mewtwo, which, as a reminder, will be faster. And at this rest, I'm thinking, oh, that is not it from her, because now I get a free chance to set up my Mewtwo, and if I fail, then I can just go back to the Jinx. But now that I'm at +2, this Slowbro is immediately much less of a threat. It still does 3-hit KO me, so it's not like it's not scary, but she can't reset speed on me, so I'm always faster here because she's maxed out her boosts. So as long as I just don't para multiple times, I am a big threat here. So now I go for the T-Bolt finally, after she is finally convinced I can't possibly have it. And I get the crit. Without the crit, it would have been a 3-hit KO, so it would have been threatening and forced her out, but like I say 3-hit KO, it's not really, but Mewtwo crit rate is so scary that she would have had to get out on a non-crit anyway. But I do get the crit right away. So finally rewarded for 7,000 turns. I think Gasly's told me in Discord afterward, you had 17 chances to click it and you didn't, so I finally had to assume you didn't and play the game. And honestly, like it's not like she really had much to work with besides this anyway. So definitely a tough spot for her. At this point, I'm just thinking, okay, a little damage on this Tauros, and I think I can win this. It gets scary, definitely, like with moments like these. But once I have this damage, I'm thinking, okay, my Tauros can do this. I still have to play around stuff here, but I decide Jinx is the least valuable player. Now my Tauros is going to force yet another chance to paralyze this Mewtwo. So she finally sacks the Chansey now that sleep is off the table. And I'm happy with that because it's really limiting her options. She has to get a lot of doubles right. And she does get the first double right. I wanted to stay so badly, but in my head, I'm just thinking, I have so many chances to get this right. Don't throw the whole game on trying to call a double super early and getting T-waved. So I go back to Tauros again. This time I double back to Chansey, and she goes for a raw Hyper Beam, which is a bit crazy. Just body slamming there would have gotten me. I get that you Hyper Beam for the damage on Toro so that the Mewtwo can take it out. Now, the problem is, if I'd stayed in and made that trade, she still loses the game. But in this case, my Chansey caught Hyper Beam, and here I'm thinking, okay, my Chansey has done enough. Take that Tauros down and let's finish this game. And Ghastly's forfeits because she has 2 Fire Blast PP left, which is not enough to win this game. The problem is the last move here was Amnesia. She told me later she thought that was a bit of an overcook. If it was Boom, she could have maybe gotten the tie, but she still would have had to, I believe, crit on the Tauros if I'd gone Mewtwo first and kind of forced her to do it, since I had Recover, of course. So definitely like a bit of luck at the end that I caught that H-beam and didn't like get KO'd by it or something. It rolled what, 67, so it could have rolled up to 74, which I think the very, very tip top end of those rolls would have killed me. I was at like what, 72? Yeah. So it would have needed a very high roll because it maxed out at 73.9. But Either way, caught the Hyper Beam, caught her trying to go for the crit, which makes sense because Mewtwo couldn't do much more. So I do think she kinda had to go for H-Beam crit, which means if I stayed in, it still would it didn't crit, so my Tauros would have won that game anyway. But she found her odds, she played the best to them. I think just ultimately I caught her off guard with 2 chances after 0% all season. I ran some wacky sets like Blizzard Mew to cover for some stuff and this Ice Beam T-Bolt Mewtwo. So very proud of this one. I ended up going 7-2 and Gastlies with a very, very good 6-3 as well. I think the Mewtwo is definitely an overcook. I don't really like this like chancy Brodon stuff, but I think Brodon is better than Cloydon for this. I'm not a big fan of Cloyster not having T-Wave for these really slow teams. I think she played it to about the best you can play a team like this, but I do think that having only Mono Fire Blast really screwed her here. So unfortunate. Spoiler as well, unfortunately, despite this victory, my team went on to lose UPL, so congrats to Gasly's for winning it. I think she was very deserving of the win, but I am very sad to put up a 7-win, 2-loss record and to have it fall apart at the very end. Bad luck, what can you do? But I'm very happy with my run. Gasly should definitely be happy with her run as well. She super earned it, even if she didn't win the finals game. She won semis, and she went 6-3 overall, so she was a big part of bringing her team to the finals. So with that, that is the end of the UPL 13 coverage. We made it to the end. Congrats, Gastlies and the Devastating Dialgas on winning it. I will be quietly bitter and sad about this on my own time. And if you've stuck with me through these like 30 or so Ubers videos, then thank you for watching all these. It's been what, like 7 weeks, 4 games a week, 28, and then 2 semis and 1 final. So like 31 games and my intro video. So if you watched all of that or even like some of that, seriously, thanks for sticking through all these. I know they can be a little dry because I'm not like really invested in doing the production side of things. I don't care about thumbnails, background music, whatever. I just want to explain the games and talk about like the ideas, how to figure out what the teams your opponent is using are, the reasoning that you might bring certain Pokemon in certain spots or certain sets. So that was the important thing to me here, and I'm glad that there's people who are benefiting from that. So genuinely, thanks if you watch these. After this, I'm going to be covering UUCL, which is RBY Underused is in that tournament. It's the format of all the CL tournaments. This was first tried by NU, I believe, is basically 2 current gen games a week plus 4 picked by each team from any of the old gens 1 through 8. And we saw a huge number of RBY games during NUCL and so far in UUCL. As I record this, I want to say in UUCL we've had 11 or 12 RBY games in the first 3 weeks. I'm recording this right at the start of week 3. So before any of the games that week have been played, but there's 4 matchups this week. So I'm really excited to cover that. RBY UU just banned Partial Trapping, and Slowbro and Victory Bell have dropped again. Or, well, Victory Bell again, Slowbro for the first real time since it was retroactively decided to be OU after kind of hovering on the border for a bit last time. So it's a brand new metagame. I'm playing in that tournament as well. And we've got some other players who are kind of rising through the ranks and showing that they can do stuff. So I'm excited to cover that tournament. I'm also going to cover RBY Grand Slam, but I'm going to do that one on a bit of a delay because I'm again playing in the playoffs of that tournament. It's 8 players, 3 weeks, so there will be 4, then 2, then 1 match. It's my 4th appearance in Grand Slam, but I've never managed to win it. It's kind of my white whale in RBY, so I'll be covering those after I am out of the tournament or after I have won the tournament, whichever one happens. Crossing my fingers that it is a win and not me going out. But I'm going to cover that as well, which will maybe give a little bit more breadth of RBY lower tier since it is Ubers, UU, NU, PU, ZU. So if you've been enjoying these, please stick around for those and keep an eye out. I'll be doing those after about, as I record this, it's August 10th. So after about the 16th, 17th, I will be off my mini vacation and fully back on doing videos of these tournaments. So keep an eye out for that. I might do enough stuff in this little interim of like 1 to 2 days to cover it up till then. So there might not even be a break at all from your perspective if you're watching these. But we'll see. I can't promise anything. There might be another few day hiatus before I get into those. But I will get into them and it'll be a fun time. So I hope you stick around for those. If you have any other RBY stuff that you suggest I cover, any topics you suggest I make a video on, I'm open to doing stuff that's not commentary and analysis. Like, I like just talking about RBY low tiers. I wouldn't hate talking about like history of certain Pokemon in these tiers or like just general tier developments over the years. I've like written some articles about those, but it's kind of fun to talk about in a video format too, where it's a little bit easier to show as you talk what you're actually talking about. So I wouldn't hate spending more time on stuff like that. Just let me know what you think. I'd love to take comments on that. But I've rambled enough at the end of this one. Congrats again, Gastlies, and I'll see you in whatever I do next, probably UUCL.